A Joyous Christmas, a nice Hallmark Christmas film. It's not the most innovative film I've ever seen. It's not the best Christmas film I've ever seen, but I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It wasn't what I expected. It didn't deliver the mood and the tone that I thought it would, and it was much quicker to get to the main point, which sometimes is a good thing, but I feel like not in this case, and I will talk a little bit about that, but I won't spoil the heart of the narrative. I will say, though, it's pretty predictable, but don't let that get in your way of enjoying it, because for the most part it is actually really good. So this was released in 2017, and it was directed by Allan Harmon, written by Scott Damian and Heather R. Provost. And the description from IMDb is as follows. A young self-help author returns to her hometown during the Christmas holidays to promote her new book. She soon discovers the true meaning of Christmas and family. As a writer myself, I love any film about authors, and that's definitely the case with Christmas films. There's just something about Christmas and a big pile of books from the same writer that makes me feel really happy. However, the majority of this is not really about the book. There's no kind of writing of another book. It's all about this event that she's doing, this talk that she's giving, and events that surround that bit. But something happens at the very beginning. She's in a life or death situation, and because of that encounter, she meets a woman called Joy. And Joy has a big influence on her. I should say her name is Rachel, and she's played by Natalie Knepp. And Rachel Kennedy as a character is really nice. She's not your... Well, in a way, she's your traditional self-help guru. She represents this perfect image. But when she meets Joy, she realizes that the message she's giving may not be the best message possible. And she learns a lot from Joy. And Joy slowly helps to change her opinion. However, I say slowly. Basically, the second she meets Joy, something clicks in Rachel that makes her question what she's doing or the message she's giving. There's no kind of slow progress to it. There's no moment of realization after a bit of time. It's basically, there's Joy. Joy says something. Rachel realizes she needs to change her attitude. And because of that, it's unrealistic. It is unbelievable. But once you get past that moment and just pretend you're deeper into her narrative, it becomes really enjoyable. Rachel is not my favourite character in the world, but she is likeable. She's very well acted. I have no problems with the performance. The presentation of the character I think is very good. She would have to be, since there were cardboard cutouts of her all over the place for this book, for this talk. But I did like Rachel. I don't necessarily, as I said, like the development of the character. I think the pacing was off. But once the film kind of gets underway and we get further into it, it gets a more steady pace. Annoyingly, I did not like Joy. Again, nothing wrong with the acting, I just don't like the way the character was written. I feel like she's two people, and that's not because of something that's revealed later on. She just seems very unsure. It's like she's been written with no real direction for what they want to do with this character. It's like she's 7 bits of a jigsaw puzzle and there's a piece missing, or you've got bits from different puzzles. I'm not entirely sure what analogy I'm going with here. The point is, Joy, I don't feel is as well written as she could be, and she's a very positive person in the sense that she's all about helping people and giving the right messages, but as a person, as a character, she's very downbeat. She's very negative. She would have worked better if she was a more bubbly person, I think. I think that would have worked better, because then she would have been likeable more, and then her words would have been easier to absorb, and she would have been more likeable to get on with and listen to. So I think they didn't quite hit the nail on the head with Joy there. But the concept is good. Jack Nelson, very good character. Stewart, fine. I guess that's all I can say. Everybody else were kind of just bit characters. to sum up, my views on this is quite difficult because, as I said, it's not the best film ever, but it is nice and I did enjoy it. If Rachel had been 5% less likeable, the film might have been quite difficult. And as I said, the problem with the pacing is a bit jarring, but once it gets past it, it's okay. For me, the weakest link is Joy. She's just not the best written character, and she could have been so much more. She could have been such a strong voice in this film. And while one could argue she must be a strong voice because of Rachel's epiphanies, I guess, she's not. And if you do think Joy is a strong character, think how much stronger she could have been if she'd been well written. Nothing wrong with the acting, as I said, but there are a few surprises as well. It's quite predictable, but not 100% predictable. Yes, I definitely recommend this one. I think it's a very nice Christmas film. It's not the best in the world, but once you get past the little kinks that needed to have been ironed out, A Joyous Christmas is pretty good fun.